This morning, you probably picked up a razor without thinking twice. A few strokes, done. But that simple habit you barely notice is one of the oldest and strangest rituals in all of human history. And the reason ancient men started doing it has almost nothing to do with looking good. It started with survival, then it became power, then it became identity, and somewhere along the way, it became the thing you do on autopilot every morning before work. For most of human prehistory, men did not shave. Your ancestors wore full beards because evolution gave them no reason not to. A beard kept the face warm in cold climates. It made a man look larger, more dominant, more threatening to rivals. Researchers at the University of New South Wales found that heavy stubble and full beards are consistently rated as more attractive and dominant by both men and women. Evolution was not subtle about this. A beard was a signal. It said, "I am mature. I am strong. Do not test me." So why did anyone ever pick up a sharp object and scrape it off? The first evidence of deliberate shaving goes back roughly 100,000 years, not with razors, with clamshells, shark teeth, and sharpened flint. Archaeologists have found ancient skulls with scraping marks on the jawbone, marks that could only have come from removing hair with a hard edge, not from natural wear. That means someone 100,000 years ago decided a beard was worth the pain of removing it with a piece of rock. The question is why? One answer is lice. This is not glamorous, but it is probably true. Facial hair is an ideal habitat for parasites. In dense early human settlements, caves, camps, seasonal shelters where dozens of bodies slept close together, lice spread fast, and they spread through hair. Removing facial hair was not vanity. It was hygiene in the only form available. Your earliest shaving ancestors were not trying to look attractive. They were trying to stop itching. But then something shifted. Around 30,000 years ago, refined tools began to appear. Obsidian blades so sharp that modern surgeons have actually tested them against steel scalpels. Obsidian edges, under a microscope, are smoother than surgical steel. Early humans were not primitive in the way you might imagine. They were meticulous, and with better tools came a new relationship with grooming, one that moved beyond necessity into something more deliberate. By the time the great civilizations emerged, shaving had become a statement. In ancient Egypt, the beard carried complex meaning. Common men wore beards, but the pharaoh, the god king, the divine ruler, was clean-shaven. A smooth face was the mark of the divine and the elite. Priests shaved their entire bodies every 2 days as an act of ritual purity. The god Osiris, however, was depicted with a long braided beard, because gods could wear what mortals had to remove. Queen Hatshepsut, one of Egypt's most powerful rulers, wore a ceremonial false beard made of gold during official appearances. The beard was so loaded with meaning that power itself had to borrow its shape. In ancient Greece, the calculus flipped entirely. A full beard was the mark of a philosopher, a citizen, a man of reason. Alexander the Great changed all of that in a single military order. According to the ancient historian Plutarch, Alexander commanded his soldiers to shave before the Battle of Issus in 333 BC, not for hygiene, but for combat. Beards gave enemy soldiers something to grab. A clean jaw was harder to seize in close quarters fighting. One tactical decision by one general cascaded across an empire and reset the grooming standard for the entire Mediterranean world. Within a generation, clean-shaven faces became the symbol of Greek civilization, of youth, of modernity. Bearded men looked old. Shaved men looked like conquerors. Rome absorbed that signal completely. Roman men shaved religiously. The first shave of a young Roman man, the depositio barbae, was a formal coming-of-age ceremony. The cut hairs were collected, placed in a golden box, and offered to the gods. This was not a haircut. It was a ritual marking the passage from boy to citizen. Roman barber shops, the tonstrini, were not just grooming establishments. They were social hubs where politics was debated, gossip was traded, and status was performed. Emperor Hadrian broke the trend in the 2nd century AD and grew a beard, reportedly to cover scars. And immediately, the entire Roman aristocracy grew beards to match. That is how much shaving was about power. The moment power changed its face, everyone followed. Then came the Middle Ages, the Renaissance, the Enlightenment, each era swinging the pendulum again. Beards meant wisdom. Beards meant barbarism. Beards meant rebellion. Shaving meant discipline. Shaving meant weakness. The meaning of a razor has never stayed still for long. What is remarkable is that through all of it, the clamshells, the obsidian blades, the Egyptian priests, the Greek soldiers, the Roman ceremonies, the shifting empires, the act itself never disappeared. Every culture in every era developed some relationship with facial hair and the deliberate removal of it. Anthropologist Robin Dunbar has argued that grooming rituals in primates are fundamentally social acts, ways of signaling belonging, trust, and alliance. Human shaving, he suggests, follows the same deep logic. You are not just removing hair, you are broadcasting who you are, which group you belong to, and what you want others to think of you. That has not changed. This morning, when you picked up that razor, you were not just following a habit. You were following a 100,000-year-old conversation about identity, power, and what it means to belong. The same conversation your ancestors were having with a piece of sharpened flint, scraping their faces by firelight, trying to say something about who they were without using a single word.